You're still watching the Saturday Breakfast Show. I am Adebanke Odunui, and today I'm speaking with someone I am particularly very excited to be meeting. I'm speaking about Editi Effiong. He is the producer and director of The Black Book, a very successful Nigerian movie on Netflix. Thank you very much for joining me. I would like to know Editi Effiong beyond the producer and the director.
I generally describe myself as an entrepreneur working in technology, advertising, and film. Dad, writer, traveler. I think that's a short version of my entire life. I always thought that if I became anything in life, being a dad is the most important one of them. And if you ask me my most important achievement this year, it was helping my son learn how to ride a bicycle. It is the thing I'm absolutely most proud of, the thing that's given me the most joy. And I'm not at home right now, and every couple of days I get him ride a bicycle, a video of him riding his bicycle, and he rides a bicycle to the park. He goes to buy his donut every Tuesday. He rides by himself, wears a backpack to do that. It's just, that's the thing that gives me the most joy. Up north was the first thing, and you see the story of Aisha and the father. There was that. There's always, and then of course there's Adeswa's character and her father, and of course Bassi's character and his father.
What inspires you as a filmmaker?
But then when you look at The Black Book, it's also a story of fathers, opposites. Okay, you have Paul and his son, and you have Senator Dipo and his son, and the different kinds of fathers. But like, irrespective of how you look at Dipo and his motivations and his evil, you have to come to the place of understanding he wants the best for his son. He might not have given his son the best training. He might not have, taken him away from the vices that, ruled over him. But when his son got into trouble, he would do everything and anything, including killing another man, to protect his son. So while we all follow Paul's journey, that he is looking and seeking for justice to clear his son's name, we often overlook the fact that Dipo did what he did to protect his own son. It's a story of fathers. And even the general, the story of the general is about sons. He had two boys, Paul Edima and Angel. Right? Paul was his favorite son. If Angel did what Paul did, disobeying orders and not killing the child, I don't think he would have waited for that court-martial event to happen. Would have killed him. But because it was Paul, kept giving him a second chance. Even when Paul potentially would destroy everything, he gave him a chance, to walk away, get paid off. So it's a story of fathers, really. There's that undercurrent, of fatherhood in the entire story. It's not the only thing, but it's a very important factor. It's a very important thing. I do think that I want my child to grow up and be proud of me. He has a musician credits on the film. Yes, he's an EP mini, and it's probably the last time I'm ever going to have a film where he's not an executive producer, because he didn't take that kindly, because he made sure he earned his credits. Yes, there's nepotism, because I don't think that he would have been in a place where he would compose music for the film if he wasn't my son. But then, what is life if you cannot give your child an opportunity to do things that he loves? And he went out and created music on his own, by himself, without any assistance from me. And if it wasn't good enough, he wouldn't have been in the film. Okay,
that sounds super awesome. Your new movie, The Black Book, is a monumental success on Netflix. It has been #1 for, I think from the day that it was published, that is on the 22nd of September. What inspired the movie? And can you tell us a little bit of the journey from the paper to screen?
Like short version or long version? Short version. It's been a 4-year journey, I think. Took about 2 years to write and pre-produce, and then we were on set. We started writing in 2019, 2019 through 2020. We did pre-production in 2020, and so we started shooting in January of 2021, and principal photography was done almost 4 months later, April. Then we did a pickup, 2 weeks of pickup, October, November 2021. Then we moved to edits. We edited. We moved to London for edits. It took quite a bit to get the final film out from edits. And then we went to post-production. So I was like, shuttling London and later on shuttling Glasgow because the post-production house was there. It was quite a process. And then after the film was acquired by Netflix, there's a very rigorous delivery process that we also had to go through, going back to post-production to ensure that QC was met, and then delivering the film. So it's a journey of gratitude, honestly, because at every step of the way we had great people who did so much great work to get the film to where it is.
Now, I have watched the movie and I can say it was so good, and I mean it was obviously quality. And we all know that quality is expensive. I would like to know, how did you secure the finances to fund this movie from paper to screen?
I don't like the word expensive. I think that the film required a certain amount of financing to get where it is, and we were lucky to get the finance. Previous, in a different life, I worked in tech. No, it's not a previous life. I work in technology. I work in advertising, and over the last 20 years, I've worked with different people, and most of the tech founders today were my friends before they were tech founders. And we worked in different capacities. For example, one of my investors, we worked together at Access Bank. My agency helped roll out tech products for him. We consulted on product design with a couple of other startups, and some of the founders who were investors in the Black Book, I gave them their first jobs, at the agency. So it's that like friendship. It was a family and friends type round where I had my friends come in. But obviously, before you get your friends to come in and invest in an idea, in a story, having also never directed a feature before, you have to put the money on the table. You have to lead the round. You have to be the biggest investor, because skin in the game is very important. And so a couple of times, twice actually, we had run out of budget. We had exceeded our budget because we had a COVID outbreak that opened a 2-week hole in our budget. And obviously, that's about 20% of your budget gone, and so you had to raise an additional round, and I had to raise that by myself. And then by the time we were going to Kaduna to shoot, we had to raise a bit more money, and a couple of investors came in as well to join me to just reinvest in the picture. Again, it's a journey of gratitude, because it's very easy to look at the difficulties and not appreciate, all the help that we received in that process. There were people who believed in the story enough, or in me as a person enough, to put their money into this. We raised just north of $1 million for the picture, and we look at it and we realize that, okay, we always talk about financing in Nollywood, but it is true. If Nollywood does get the right financing, we can create stories that are world class, that can become number one in the world. It's not a thing that we dream anymore. It has already happened.
So you had a very star-studded show. RMD, Shafi Bello, Adela Oye, they were awesome and they were good. But then again, the Nigerian film industry is filled with talent. What informed your choice of actors for this movie?
I wrote the story for RMD. I've watched RMD since I was a child, man. If anyone could be Paul Edima, it was him. He was my number one and only choice. And so I wrote to his strengths. I mean, he already had the look, the build, and we only just needed to get him in conditioned. And he gave his all, absolutely everything to the role. He had to like get in the gym, he had to diet, he had to get training for weapons and tactical fight training, stunt training, so that was one. I met him and he saw the project and was like, he's in, he was there. And I did a lot of casting with Lala Akindoju, and we had like a happy list of people. I remember I sent the scripts to Shafi Bello. She had worked with me on Fishbone, and I was like, my next project, you have to choose your role. But of course, I already wrote Big Daddy for her. She was the one I wanted for Big Daddy. But I sent her the role, as the script, and said, remember when I said you have to choose your role? Here, knock yourself out. And so we had a call on a Saturday morning, and after she had read the script, and she said, I like that lady, Big Daddy. I'm like, okay, all right, you can take Big Daddy. And then a couple of weeks later, I was like, I already wrote Big Daddy for you. So the one that really did shock me that we got was Taiwo Ajayi likes it. Jesus Christ. When Lala told me we got her, I was like, no, we haven't. So it was like you had like this little shopping list, and like one after the other we were just ticking them off. Alex Sifo, I met the daughter on Twitter. Please beg your daddy, please, And she connected us, and he was happy to do the general. I met Femi Branch here, and we had a screening for Fishbone, and he was like, I'd like to work with you. So I wanted him to do the young general, but we met for the first time in Kaduna, and because we had to have General Isa do his performances so he can look at the performance, the character, and basically, model himself after that. So he didn't have to create his own character by himself. He had to be a younger version. So we had to have shots, like a couple of scenes, so he would look at it, also speak like that character. So there was that. It was a fun process. And then, of course, the hardest role to cast for was Dami. With Adelauye, I just knew it was Adelauye. I just knew it was her. It was her. Well,
she is a good actress.
She is amazing. It's fantastic. A generational talent, actually. So it was going to be a role that was very hard to execute. It's easier to play a villain. It's easier to play a hero. But a character that is annoying is really hard to play. And her character, she had to annoy the audience. I believe that films should make people feel. You have to feel emotions. You have to feel sad, happy, annoyed, whatever. And coming through the entire character list, she's the one character people want to get into the TV and bring out and beat. She did nothing wrong, the entire thing, but people want to drag her and beat her. That is how amazing her performance was, because she was supposed to be annoying, and she delivered the most annoying journalist that you're shaking your head. It was a story where we had to ensure that Paul is not seen as a saint, a holy hero, because he was not. And she was the mirror that was getting held up. Without her, we would have thought, oh, Paul is an aggrieved father, the world's done him wrong, and it's fine, he can do whatever. But did he have the right to do whatever? Like Angel, our good friend, asked, how many sons did you send to the grave? The past must die to truly serve the future. I think that there are things that have to give way for us to truly have a new generation. The things that have to step aside, the things that have to be removed. And if Paul, in this case, if his past had truly died, we would have had a fresh future. But the things that were held onto, from his past. His past didn't truly die until he took down the black book.
So what would you say are the lessons you learned from the process of making this film?
It was an enjoyable process, but it wasn't fun. That's the one thing I know. It was not fun making this picture. It's the most difficult thing I have ever done. I have learned that if I had to do this again, I would do exactly everything that I did. No regrets. I have no regrets. I had no regrets that I learned the difficult things. I have no regrets that some things were easier than others and some were harder than the others. I think that you can see every dime we spent. I think I could see all the sweat and blood in it. I think you can see all of that, including the 2.5 hours of footage that is on the edit floor. It is that process, that very difficult process of killing your darlings. Some scenes that you absolutely loved that you had to cut to get this picture that moves at good pace, that makes you cry when you need to cry, that makes you laugh when you need to laugh. And by the way, my absolute favorite scene is that Vic picks up the gun and points at the general. And general walks away, pulls away. That is like one of my Happy Few favorite scenes. That was like one of my most favorite scenes. But the scene I enjoyed the most creating and shooting and seeing come to life was I am a woman and no one controls us. 1, 2, 3. And Angel's face is like, is that all you got? And I say, no, this is all I've got.
I screamed when I was that fat. Shafi is awesome.
Yeah, she is amazing. She is amazing.
It's not news that every movie has a message, and Black Book definitely has its own themes. But the Nigeria of today has a lot of problems. So what lesson do you think the Black Book teaches Nigeria and Nigerians of today that can help it become a better nation?
I mean, the world has seen this film, so I don't think the lessons are for Nigeria alone. But I'm not a preacher. Paul Edima is. And so I would refer you to the words of Paul Edima. Silence is the enemy. Although that is originally Chisim Chiku, Vic's mom. But silence is the enemy. For every time that we stay silent in the face of oppression, in the face of injustice, we become the enemy of the future we are trying to create.
Now let's move on to Nollywood and the Nigerian film industry. It has grown so much in the recent years, and I want to ask, what factors do you think contributed to this growth, and how can we sustain it and even increase the tempo?
I am here today on the back and shoulders of the people who were there before me. I've said it over and over. I'm a Nollywood filmmaker. I'm a product of Nollywood. But before me, there were people. If Glamour Girls didn't get made in '94, I don't think any of us will be here. I do not think any of us will be here in this way. And those people made films, Living in Bondage, the Glamour Girls, and those guys made those films on a wing of prayer. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And there's different generations. I think what I would call my generation, I don't know what generation I belong to be honest, but I watched The Wedding Party and I watched 50 and I was so inspired. This is why I call Omo Abudu the patron saint. I think if they didn't make Wedding Party, that's Inkblots, Film One, Koga, and Ebony Life didn't make The Wedding Party, I don't think I would have been making films in this context. And so my job then is to take that baton that's been handed over and run the next few miles, hopefully, and then I hand it over to someone else And there's always going to be someone who dreams bigger. There's always going to be someone who's more audacious. And I really pray that, okay, so the Black Book has done this, but there's all kinds of mountains that are yet to be conquered. Mami Wata did really well at the Sundance Festival, but I don't just want to do well. I don't want to win cinematography. I want to win the entire damn thing. I mean, by me, I mean Nollywood. You know, we have to win the entire thing. There's Cannes, there's TIFF, we want to win the entire thing. But beyond that, you know, because I'm not an awards person, so I'm a terrible example of what I want someone else to do it, someone who has the nerve and audacity to do it. You know, so we are standing on the shoulders of the people who brought us here. And now our job then is to start going to that gym and building the muscle so that the next generation can stand on our shoulder.
Your filmmaking career has spanned over several years, and you're a filmmaker, you are a tech entrepreneur. I want to ask, what advice can you give to aspiring and new filmmakers?
It took a lot of grit to make this film. That's the most important thing. That's the thing that kept me alive. It's grit. It's just knowing that this is hard, but then I always reminded myself that in 4 months, you're not going to remember how hard this thing was. Not in detail. You're going to feel this way. You're not going to feel this way. You're going to feel differently. And so you have to do what is in front of you in that moment, get it out of the way, and every day you wake up and keep going, you know, because you wouldn't remember how hard it was. But if you give up, however hard it is, you cannot give up. If you give up, look what we have done. Imagine what we could have given up. So it's that never giving up, whatever happens, just keep going. There always is going to be a way. You would find a way. But if you're not buying that lottery ticket, you can't win. Buy the ticket, stand in line. That is the job, stand in line. You may not win today, but eventually they're going to call your number. And what if you left the line when eventually they'll call your number? So that is the thing I remind myself, because again, it's my first time, there'll be another time. And so I have to remind myself that this is what I have to do. It's been a really hard couple of weeks for me. You know, marketing a film and trying to stretch yourself across on a global platform, you know, it's tough. It's tough. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of grit. And even after the film has got to where it's gotten to, I'm having to take interviews. I hate interviews.
You are doing beautifully well.
I don't know about that. But I absolutely, I hate interviews. I hate light in my face. I hate being in front of camera. I want to be behind the camera, you know, and having to do this every day. And I wake up early. I sleep late every day. It's like making the film all over again. But I have to remind myself that you get one shot to do this. So you do what you have to do. Because I have a duty to the industry to represent it well.
And for my final question, what is next for Editi Effiong?
What's next? I'm in a script workshop at the moment. This is going to be over. And I can't wait for it to be over so I get back to work. We're already back at work. I just came out of a conversation with an actor for our next picture. So, yeah, back to work.
Thank you very much, Editi, for joining me to have this conversation about the Black Book, and congratulations on the success.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that is a conversation with Mr. Effiong. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Have you watched the Black Book? I have, and it was so good. I advise you to watch it if you haven't. And if you have, you can watch it again. There is no shame in enjoying it so much that you have to watch it again. I am Adibanke Odunui. Stay tuned.